afternoon, everyone. We are going to get started. I know we still have some probably stragglers coming over from the conference center, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We also have t-shirts in the back that are being sorted by size, but they say your passwords are broken, enable MFA. Very on brand for me to start a presentation. So please feel free to take one at the back. Tammy is doing the hard work of putting them in size so you can easily pick one. So look, it's a huge room. I would ask that people move this way, but it's up to you. We are going to start with a presentation. I'm going to, as you're moving, thank you. Boy, very cooperative audience. I love that. I'm going to go through some lessons on operational resilience, which is learnings from our DART team. The DART team is Microsoft's detection and response team. They are the team that actually goes out and visits customers in the horrible event that you have a breach, and we learn a lot from that team. We learn a lot from that team that we build into our products and we build into our best practices. So I will start there. Desmond, can we wait the shirt distribution for the end? Thank you. That's all right. I can live with that. If I had stickers, they'd be more popular in the session also. But we have enough shirts for everyone. You don't have to worry, we'll run out. And if for some reason at the end we do, I promise you I will send you a shirt if you give me a business card. But I counted, I think we have enough shirts for everyone. But anyway, we're going to start. I'm going to do a short presentation, just talk about lessons from the DART team. Then we're going to have a group of panelists come up, and then we're going to take Q&A. So let's try to make this interactive. It's a very large room. We still have folks coming in from I appreciate those of you who walked over from the conference center to be here. I know it's a little bit of a hike. Hopefully everyone's getting their steps in. I know I am. So let's start at the beginning. My name is Ann Johnson. I run cybersecurity solutions at Microsoft. What does that mean? I am not Microsoft CISO. That's Brett Arsenault. We divide our responsibilities quite clearly. Brett says he is responsible for securing Microsoft. I'm responsible for securing our customers and partners. That's how we have a separation of duties between the two of us. But we do spend a lot of time speaking with each other. We share best practices. We share a lot of learnings. And Brett is actually as involved as I am in our product development lifecycle. So we both give a lot of input to how we develop products and bring products to market, because Microsoft actually uses our solutions that we bring to market. And Brett has a very defined point of view that he is responsible for keeping Microsoft secure. So he will not use a solution on global scale for 150,000 employees unless he is confident in that solution. What that means for our customers and partners is you can be confident in it. Because if we can deploy it and roll it out at Microsoft, we know it can work at scale, we know it can work with different global threats, and we know we're compliant with global regulations. So that's what I love about the fact that he deploys our tools and he gives the product team feedback to make those tools better and to the confidence that he can deploy them. So with that framing then, I want to talk a little bit about data as a risk to start this presentation, because it's one thing that I want to start the industry to start thinking about a little bit more. IDC predicts that in the year, not by the year, but in the year 2025, there will be 175 zettabytes of data produced. That is a 10 times increase of what was produced in the year 2016. Why is that important? Because data is a company's greatest asset. It's also a company's greatest risk. And I don't want you to think about the risk of data just in the standpoint of you can have a data breach or you can have data loss. You also need to think about data of how it can corrupt artificial intelligence models deliberately, how it can corrupt machine learning if somebody puts that data, a deliberately malicious data set into those models. And it's something we're thinking about every day. We're also thinking about data in context of what the World Economic Forum is thinking about data, which they have added data theft, data fraud, and cyber attacks to their list of global disruptions. So a lot of you are used to thinking about fires or earthquakes or floods or tsunamis. You need to start thinking about cyber attacks and data theft and data fraud the same way. It can materially impact your ability to do business. Maersk is the best example because they were so public in their conversation, and I love that. Not every customer is very public in their conversation, but they gave the industry learnings because of the event they went through and how it disrupted their business operations. I mean, they went as far as having to hire a competitor to move cargo, and they were very public about that. And we can all learn from that. And one of the things we learned is that you have to work on being more cyber resilient. And it should be part of your holistic operational resilience. And I talk a lot about operational resilience in that context because I want to change the headset of folks who know that they have a disaster recovery plan for a natural disaster, but don't have a disaster recovery plan for a cyber event. And we need to have the same protocols, the same practices, et cetera. And one thing that we learn in working with the DART team is that most customers don't. It doesn't matter if you're a Fortune 5 company or you're the smallest business. You're probably no better prepared for a wholesale cyber attack and something that materially disrupts your business operations. Now, we have a lot of groups that work at Microsoft to keep Microsoft safe and our customers safe, and I'm going to go through them. How many of you went through the security tech keynote yesterday? So you heard the very abbreviated version of this presentation. I'm going to go through the depth version of this presentation. You heard the 10-minute version of the 40-minute presentation. Today you'll probably get about 30. So, but what we have at Microsoft is we have our own Cyber Defense Operations Center, which is much like the SOC that all of you have in your environments. The Cyber Defense Operations Center is a fusion center that keeps Microsoft safe. It also keeps our customers safe. So it's the same facility, the same humans, the same tools that are hunting 24/7 in customer environments and Microsoft's environment to keep us all safe. We take learnings from the CDOC and we put them in our tooling and our solutions so that when you're rolling out the ATP solutions or you're using our CASB solutions or you're looking at Azure Security Center or you're looking at Sentinel, et cetera, you know that the learnings we've taken from the 8 trillion signals, and it is 8 trillion signals we see daily, by the way, that we put in a machine learning engine, but that signaling, once we've refined it down to something that's actually actionable indicators of attack and indicators of compromise, we put those into all of our products. And because we're a cloud vendor, we don't have to wait until we're shipping a new product. We can actually update in near real time to all of those solutions. So the CDOC is one element. We also have our Advanced Malware Research Center, MSRC. They're always looking out there for what is advanced in the wild, what haven't we seen before, but they also do a lot of predictive work on what we are going to be seeing in malware. We take those learnings. We have Mystic, the Microsoft Threat Intelligence Organization. They're actually the folks that they're human hunters and they're hunting. So if you see us you'll see us sometimes publicize a law enforcement action that we've done against a particular nation state entity or a cybercrime group. That is a cooperation of Mystic, who actually is the human hunters who identifies those folks in the wild, and our digital crimes facility who works with global law enforcement to actually take the action. So both of those groups work together. We take all of that data and all of that information and we use that data to make our solutions and our best practices better. So you can see there's a lot of different groups at Microsoft, not just product engineering, but there's a lot of different groups that are doing a lot of intelligence and a lot of malware research and a lot of looking at customer scenarios and saying, how can we improve? And we're trying to improve all the time, which leads me specifically to the DART team. So I feel like I have the best job at Microsoft because I have this wonderful DART team, and I think there are some Darshans, as I call them, in the room. I saw a couple sneak in the door. But the DART team is an exceptional team of folks that literally leaves their home on a weekend, flies to remote parts of the world, and will join a customer in a time of crisis. So the job isn't just about technology. It's also about helping the customer psychologically recover from that event, helping them put best practices in place, and helping them secure their infrastructure to prevent against future events. They're an exceptionally talented group of folks, and it's a really unique DNA it takes to want to have, go into that environment and really be very strong, but also very confident, and they're unflappable, as you can imagine, right? Because they're dealing with crisis all day long. But the one thing that they tell me that's really always interesting, because we think about attacks and we think about events, and everyone wants to talk about how persistent they are or how advanced they are, and candidly, the DART team will tell you about 70 to 80% of attacks actually aren't all that sophisticated and aren't all that persistent. They're just taking advantage of some type of weakness in the enterprise. And we have a philosophy that we don't blame our customers. We all have weaknesses. We have weaknesses because we have technical debt. We have weaknesses because we don't have enough human resources or enough financial resources. We have weaknesses because we have legacy systems. And we have weaknesses because we have systems that we simply can't patch, update, or manage because they're running a critical business system and they're not even necessarily our systems. Think healthcare, think manufacturing floors, retail, POS, et cetera. So what the DART team will tell you is there's 4 or 5 things that customers need to think about and that they see in common in every breach. at least one of them. One is, I joke a lot about MFA, but the ability to use MFA is incredibly important. I mentioned yesterday that Alex Weinert, who's in identity engineering, published a blog. He looked at events over an 18 to 24-month period that we saw within our tenant, and he said 99.9% of them had some type of password event, whether it was a stolen credential, whether it was a brute force attack, whether it was a password spray, or whether they were just using the credentials to add entry or for lateral movement and escalation of privilege. He talks about that in the blog. This is why MFA is so important. And I am an early adopter of the MFA is important. I had I can't remember if it was a reporter or an analyst call me out on it recently and said, well, you've certainly jumped on the MFA bandwagon. I said, yes, I jumped on it in the year 2000 when I joined a company called RSA Security. That's when I jumped on the MFA bandwagon. And our industry adoption, you can laugh at that, our industry adoption, I have to tell you, isn't much better in the year 2019 than it was in the year 2005. The difference between distributing a hardware token, though, and maintaining a total cost of ownership and the life cycle of a token is what we always thought inhibited the broader adoption of MFA. We've taken the friction out. We have biometric authentication. We support FIDO2, so you can use things like your YubiKeys. There's a lot of different decentralized authentication models. There's Azure Authenticator on the phone. There's a lot of third-party solutions, and other vendors or competitors are producing solutions. We're still not, as an industry, seeing a huge uptick in MFA adoption. So I was struggling with this for a while, and I said, I don't understand why, now that it's so easy to use, and everyone I know logs into their phone with some form of biometric authentication. They unlock it with their thumb. They put a pin in that's tied to, they don't know what's under the covers, but there are things under the covers, right? Authenticating that pin. And then I had a conversation and I had an epiphany. And about 2 weeks ago, I was having a brunch with a family member. And he was complaining to me over brunch that on his Starbucks application now, he's being forced to authenticate to complete a financial transaction. And I said, well, that's a good thing. He's like, no, it's a pain in the neck. I said, all you have to do is put your thumb on the thing, just like you log into your phone. How is that? It's just another step. I don't want to do it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at him. And I'm thinking, at first I'm like getting frustrated. And I'm like, okay, I actually need to dig a little deeper here because he's trying to tell me something, right? And I took it as a learning. As security professionals, we do a lot of telling what. We do a lot of telling how. We don't do enough of telling why. So when I explained to him, I said, the reason they want you to do that, one of the reasons, they don't necessarily care what your coffee order is or that gets leaked, but your credit card is attached to that account and it reloads automatically when you are below a certain level on your account. So you have a financial risk associated with your Starbucks account with just ordering a cup of coffee. When I had that conversation, I could almost see like the light bulb went on. He was like, oh, okay, well that kind of makes more sense to me. We need to explain to the end user why it's important to use security controls. We have to do a better job of educating them instead of saying you must, you must, you must. We have to say, look, you must, but here's why. Here's the advantage to you as an end user. Here's the advantage to the company you work for and you as a consumer. And I think we all have an onus as an industry to do that. So that's my little blurb on it, why MFA and how MFA and what MFA. The other thing the DART team will tell you is that they hate the word exception. All enterprises make exceptions. We find that they're largely made at the very executive level with people that have a whole lot of privilege. The problem with that is they're made for convenience and nobody contemplates the security implications when the exception is made. So what the DART team tells me is that, look, exceptions are going to exist, but you want to minimize them in the enterprise. So if you have an exception that you've granted to a large number of users, you need to figure out why and change the security control so you can eliminate the exception. If it's just too hard to use, if it interrupts business process too much, then that's an opportunity for process improvement within the enterprise. The third thing they like to talk about is people don't follow the encryption policy of their company or their organization. They don't classify data properly, they don't label data properly, they don't encrypt data properly. I believe that that is, and I'm going to say this, a vendor issue, not an end user issue. We have made it so historically hard to do those types of things that your average end user cannot do them. In addition, there are something like 200 global regulations released daily. So you cannot put the onus on the end user to understand how to classify and label data. We are doing a lot of work at Microsoft within our Azure Information Protection solutions to do automatic classification and labeling, and to get that right and to get it right at global scale. So we can extract the human from that, and we can actually allow decisioning being made based on your policy and based on the regulations you're required to comply with. If you encrypt your data, you're going to raise the cost of attack. We're all about raising the cost of attack. Because if you raise the cost of attack, the attacker is going to go elsewhere. If you keep the cost of attack low, they're going to stay in your environment and try to attack you. And I want to take that for 1 second and pull the thread on ransomware attacks that we've seen. How many of you are US-based? Okay. At least the majority, and actually ransomware is a global problem, but it's much more of a US problem at the moment. We are seeing a vast amount of state and local entities in the US being attacked by ransomware. There's a couple reasons for that. But one of the reasons is they tend to have a lot of legacy systems and technical debt. They don't tend to be as well funded as their enterprise peers, so they don't have the humans or the dollar resources to secure their systems or to combat and respond to a ransomware attack. And we find a lot of them have cyber insurance. And by the way, the bad actors know that. So they know that they're going to get a payout. The average payout for cyber ransomware is now about $47,000. That's good return on investment. They can take the same crypto toolkit they've built, and they can go attack multiple entities, and they can get roughly 50K US a pop. That's pretty good ROI. They like that. We want to raise the cost to them. We think every day about how we raise the cost to the attacker. When you encrypt, you raise the cost to the attacker. So I just want to leave that kind of with you, to think about holistically your encryption and how you make it easier for your end users to classify and label properly. The final thing, which is always the hypersensitive thing for me as a Microsoftie to stand on stage and talk about, is updating and patching. People tend to throw things at me when I have this conversation, but I'm going to have it because we need to hear it. We need to own it, and we need to hear it. You need to keep your systems current. You also need to patch and update. We understand that not everything can be patched. So you also need to have the appropriate network segmentation in place so that the systems that cannot be patched or updated cannot contaminate the rest of the environment if they are compromised. Another good Maersk learning. They were a fairly flat network. When they were compromised, the entirety of the organization was compromised. This isn't a fault of theirs. This is just something that happened. But it gave us all a good learning that said, if you have that manufacturing floor that you don't own those devices and they're still running on Windows 95, I kid you not, some of them are. I've seen XP devices out there. You just need to make sure that they are in an environment where they can impact the rest of your environment and bring down your critical business operations. That means the one thing you have to do is really good asset control. The one thing that organizations have to do today is really good asset control so you can identify what can be patched and updated, automate as much of that, and then quarantine the rest. I will tell you from a vendor standpoint, the vendor that actually produces the OS that causes you these problems, we have an onus too to make that patching and updating process easier. We introduced Microsoft Endpoint Manager this week. We will continue to iterate. We take it very seriously. We know we're part of the problem. We know we haven't made it easy, and we'll continue to refine our solutions to both reduce the errors in code, by the way, to continue to improve our secure development lifecycle, but also to make patching and updating a lot easier for our customers so that you're not going through the pain. We take it very seriously. You'll continue to see us make solutions. I talked a little bit about this before, that Alex talked about how multi-factor authentication could reduce the risk of compromise by 99.9%. He looked at a really large body of evidence. The DART team will tell you that too. Now, I say this occasionally to security audiences, and they're like, yeah, but SMS was hacked, yeah, but this happened. You know what? Yes, it did. You're right. Those are really edge cases. Anything can be hacked. I love the articles that come out and say, I built an unhackable whatever. It actually gives me great pleasure. Anything can be hacked. MFA is still better than password. There are better types of MFA. There are worse types of MFA, but MFA is still better than a password. So that's why I wear this shirt that you'll see. I live in Seattle, and I wear it to the gym, and I wear it to the grocery store. I have it. There's like 3 or 4 of those MFA shirts. I say different things, and people look at me generally like I'm crazy because they have no idea what it even means. But it gives me the opportunity to have a conversation, right? It gives me the opportunity to have a conversation. You also usually have on some type of Microsoft security branding so that I have credibility to have that conversation. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with inviting the conversation. I would ask you to figure out within your organization, what are the barriers to MFA adoption? what is the best type of MFA to adopt, and then help your organization get on a path. We're on a mission to be passwordless. We're over 85% passwordless at Microsoft today, and I would challenge you, if we can do it with the global scale that we have and with the technical systems we have, then our customers can do it. It's not an overnight thing, though. So I would ask you to lean on us to help you get to that passwordless state and to get to that state of MFA. Couple final things I want to leave you with before we get to the panel. We know that operational resilience isn't just about technology. It's about the people. By the way, people are the most important thing, the processes, and the technology. We can build all the great technology solutions we want, but if we don't explain to you best practices of how to actually implement those solutions, they're of no value to you. Hold us accountable. Put the onus on us to make sure that we are supplying you the best practices you need, whether you're going into a Windows environment, server, Azure, BizApps, Office, et cetera. Say, Microsoft, here's what I need from you to securely deploy the solution. You're not giving me enough information. The second thing I would say is make sure you have the right process and make sure it's supported at senior levels in your organization. A lot of this requires organizational change. You actually have to account for, and security professionals aren't the best at this because you're thinking technology and we tend to be purists and we tend to get inside our own lane like, well, people should just do this, right? There's a lot of politics surrounding some of this, okay? So make sure you understand that nuance and how to have that conversation, or you get help having those conversations. And then the final piece is the technology. We will continue to increase and improve our security technology. The industry will continue to increase and improve their security technology, but that is only one piece of the puzzle to actually becoming truly cyber resilient. And I like to say you can't be operationally resilient if you're not cyber resilient. And operational resilience has a very finite definition, by the way. It's simply the ability to keep your business systems online and operable in the event of any kind of disaster. Full stop. It's nothing more complex than that. Now, there's a lot of writings on it and how you do that. The social, the legal, the communications, the technical, et cetera, plans that you need to have in place and the right governance around those. But it's pretty straightforward. The Bank of England released a piece of guidance in July of last year, July of 2018, that was actually pretty good. You could actually give that. It's not super long, it's not even super technical, but it talks about how the banks need to have sustainability and cash management and the ability to maintain business operations in the event of any kind of disaster in the UK. I would encourage you, if you need your leaders, you need to sell them a little. This is a good guide for them to read, by the way, because it talks about cybersecurity also. All of our customers are starting to talk about cybersecurity in the event of operational resilience. And I will tell you that we surveyed, and only 42% of global CEOs said they were confident they could withstand a cyber attack. That's a pretty low number, by the way. That means 58% of global CEOs are saying, we think we're going to have material business operations that's going to cost us millions of dollars, which is not a position any of us want to be in. So encourage your organization also to write that playbook. The playbook they write for a cyber attack should be the same playbook as they write for a natural disaster. That's how, by the way, that's how Microsoft approaches it. Our cyber response people are the same as our physical response people in the event of a disaster. Same protocols, same legal, same comms, same technology, same call tree, the whole 9 yards. You should encourage that in your organization, and same governance above it. And we'll get to a better place if you do. All right, three quick pieces. I want to leave you with three things. Number one, we talked about MFA at length. We talked about staying current. The final thing is using SecureScore. SecureScore, if you're a Microsoft customer, is included in your license for Office 365 and Azure. Turn it on, look at it every day, and most importantly, it's not about the red, green, and yellow flashing lights or the 1100 or the 600 or whatever the score it is it gives you. The most important part of SecureScore, it gives you the top 10 to 20 things you need to do to improve the security posture of your environment. Usually top of the list is use MFA, by the way. But it gives you the top 10 to 20 things. I know, I'm just gonna, until we get over 20% industry adoption of MFA, I'm gonna keep talking about it. I'm probably gonna retire and I'll still be talking about it. But I'm gonna keep talking about MFA. It's been 20 years, I'm gonna keep talking about it. But in all seriousness, take SecureScore, take those top 10 to 20 things it tells you to do proactively, and that will help you improve your security posture. With that, I want to invite our panelists up, and I want to thank them very much for making the time and taking the time out of their schedules. Many of them traveled in for this. We'll do some Q&A with me in the panel, and then we will open it up for the audience. Just join me. Thank you, Tony. assigned seating, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Charlene, my brilliant comms person, gave them assigned seating. So they were moving. Everyone's a little scared of Charlene. So she's ignoring me. So thank you. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. I don't know, I think, Chad, you weren't even planning on coming to Ignite, and then I invited you to sit on this panel with us. But I actually want to start the panel by having the panel introduce themselves. So maybe we start then with Conan and work our way this way.
Absolutely. Good morning. Conan Sandberg. I'm with United Health Group and Optum Technology. I'm based out of Minneapolis. I run the Security Operations Center, and I'm also our company's ISSM.
Good afternoon. I'm Tony Souza with Duke Energy, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm the Director of Cyber Architecture and Engineering.
Hi, everyone. Payal Thakur with Ernst & Young. I'm a partner in the cybersecurity practice, primarily serving the energy sector right now, but have been spending a lot of time in financial services as well.
Hello, everybody. Chad Holmes. I've been in the cybersecurity industry about 22 years. I'm our Chief Services and Operations Officer for Optum Global Services. Prior to that, I was CTO for FireEye and Mandiant for a while, too. So,
great. Thank you again. So I'm going to start. We're going to warm up by picking on Conan for just a minute here. So the combined United Health Optum assets are obviously very large. It's a very complex business, and you have a lot of different business units. So when you think about the context of everything we talked about today, can you talk to me about how your organization would define operational resilience, thinking about all those different and complex and disparate entities?
Absolutely. So operational resiliency for us comes down to focusing on the people, building a culture that kind of like encourages and empowers operational resiliency. And starting with the people puts the process and technology kind of in an easy spot, because if you build that culture of operational resilience, it just makes the other pieces fall into place a little bit more. We obviously have the business portion of healthcare. We have clinics. We have a lot of business partners. Business partners obviously adapt to our culture that we embrace them with. So we really, I would say, treat security incidents the same we would, to Ann's point, as any other incident, which kind of, I would say, incorporates the operational resiliency a little bit easier for us, because obviously our business focuses on the business. In security, we tend to get siloed on security is the only thing that matters. We might go to our business side and say, hey, you guys need to use multi-factor authentication. Don't click on bad emails. Phishing's bad. Try to educate them. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure you're treating cyber attacks the same as like a business impact, because at the end of the day, a cyber attack is business impact. So I would say like the biggest thing that helps us is we align our business incident response with our security incident response teams. So when we have anything that pops off, crisis happens, it's more so about containing the incident, documenting the incident, moving on from the incident, and kind of having like not necessarily short-term memory loss on it, but risk management, and move on. Make sure you realize what happened, fix what happened, and move on, because in a company at our scale, we can't necessarily get our heads down on like every little thing that comes up. So that comes back to the culture. Like our United Health culture really empowers and embraces the operational resiliency to make sure the business stays intact, make sure security stays intact, because we have a lot of data at the end of the day. I don't know our exact amount of data that we have in storage and transit, but it's a lot of confidential records. So at the end of the day, we have to keep our customers safe, we have to keep our employees safe, and that just comes down to our United Health culture as a whole.
I think that's a really important point. I talked about process, but we also need to think about culture, right? A lot of this is changing the organizational culture, and you're a voice in doing that, and you need to just keep, that's one of the harder parts of the job, right? Is continuing to be that voice and to message. Payal, so you've had the opportunity to work with a lot of enterprises at a very large scale in their digital transformation and just being like a CTO type advisor to them, and obviously you spent a fair amount of time in financial services. So. Talk to me a little bit about how you advise customers on the financial impact of any type of operational event that would take down their business operations, and what do you tell them as proactive guidance in response?
Good question, Ann. Thank you. As a typical consultant, I will have to start by saying that always identifying what is critical for your customers, right? Understanding what you're trying to bring back online is really important to understanding what the financial impact is going to be if you do get an incident, if you have a cyber incident, or if you have any kind of an operational incident. So starting with that focus on your customer is really important. And then, understanding your landscape again, falling back on the typical one-on-one of consulting, assess the risk that you're facing in your existing environment. What do you have? What is the maturity of your systems today? How secure are they? What needs to be patched? Kind of going back to Anne, what she said. And all of this lends itself to an understanding of what is the impact if you do get hit, but then also looking at cyber as an investment versus a cost. We often go into our clients and it's looked at cyber is a cost, it's an expense. We're gonna have to make this expense, but it's really not. It's an investment. It's an investment for what you need to put in place right now so that your businesses are not impacted in the event that you do have a crisis, whether it's a cyber crisis or not. How are you gonna protect your systems when there is an incident, and then how do you come back? Because that loss aversion is the return on investment in cyber. And that's something that we encourage our customers to keep in mind.
That's a great topic. Can I pull the thread on that a little? So someone challenged me earlier today about how do you prove the return on investment in cybersecurity.
Yep.
So do you have prescriptive guidance that you give customers to actually, so they can go have the conversation with the CFO, but the person that's gonna give them money, how do you encourage them to have those conversations?
I draw upon what you said, Anne. It's really interesting what we're seeing. The role of the CISO today in the organization is not always from a technical competency or knowing, the importance of cyber. It's also that political angle, getting that buy-in. And it's not always just the person who has the purse strings, because they're typically easy to convince, given that they also know the impact, the financial impact. If there's going to be an impact, there's going to be an incident. The political environment is such that you need to convince even the businesses, right, that are the true implementers of these cyber technologies or the users within the organization. These are the people who are going to start, using cyber. And the CISO is typically given the tough job of not just talking to the CFO or the person who's holding the board and convincing them. That's kind of a slightly easier battle almost now, given the board awareness that we're seeing also. But how do you convince the teams that are actually running the businesses? For them, cost saving it's really all about cost saving, and then having that conversation about how you're going to help in the cyber investments and how these investments are going to have a ROI is really the political battle that the CISO faces today.
Okay. Tony, you have, I think, about 7.5 million north of that customers in 6 or so states, one of the largest utility companies in the US at this point in time. So you have much like Conan, you have a very, life-impacting business that you're trying to keep online, right? Losing power can have, real human harm. So talk to me a little bit about how you think about the cloud in terms of, does that help you improve your operational resilience and your cyber resilience posture? And then what controls are you putting in place around the cloud environment to make sure that it itself has a reasonable level of assurance and security?
Sure, that's a great question. So in our business, if you think about it, we come in here, we expect all the machinery to work, we expect the lights to be on. We don't even think about it much until they don't come on. So there's really two parts of the business. There's the operational technology side of the business, that's the power grid. And on that side of the business, everything is about reliability, availability, and safety. We can't have unsafe conditions for our customers. And then there's the other part of this, which is the traditional back office, the billing systems and everything else, where the cloud comes into play for us now. And it's not that on that operational power grid side of the business that we can't, we wouldn't want to do the cloud there. Right now, the regulatory environment, the way it exists, doesn't allow us to go there. That's evolving, and we'll get there. But for now, where the cloud really provides a great impact for us is if you picture a large-scale event, we operate in the Carolinas and in Florida and a few other places. If you have a hurricane or a large hurricane, that's millions of customers without power. They may not have power, but chances are they still have a smartphone that works. And just like in every other aspect of their life, one of the first things that they expect when something like this happens is that they can take out that smartphone and get in touch with Duke Energy and see, you know, how long is my power going to be down? Is it safe in my neighborhood because there's power lines on the ground? They'll have any number of questions that, you know, any of us would face in our life if a catastrophic event happened in our neighborhood. When that happens, the traffic that hits our systems goes up by several orders of magnitude, and it happens within minutes, literally. So if you think about traditional data center, we can either build a traditional data center that, you know, is not going to really auto scale, that's just designed to, in that case, you know, we got to power up a whole bunch of stuff. Or, you know, in the cloud, we get the elasticity, we get the resiliency. If Florida's impacted, our operations down here, all we need is some sort of line of communication out, and that cloud can exist anywhere that's not impacted by the storm. And for that, that's both, you know, a customer service thing that our goal is always to delight our customers and to meet and exceed their expectations. But it also has a, you know, a safety impact for society as a whole when you have that type of event where people can get in touch with us, helps us get them back online much more quickly, because it puts millions of sets of eyes out in the community that can tell us, you know, where they need help. So cloud in that respect for us is, you know, is really, I don't often use the term game changer, but it is. That being said, to get the kind of data and information both in and out that we want, that's, you know, usually customer specific data, and that side of the house is all about data protection and customer service. So we use a lot of, I'm a firm believer in cloud environments using as many of the onboard protections that come in those environments as you can, the native protections. Some people try to force what they had in the traditional data center, you know, force that somehow into the in the cloud. I'm a firm believer, use what's given in the cloud and optimize it, and then you know, maybe where you have something different is where you protect the connections, because in our case, we still have to connect to some back-end systems to get some customer data out and everything. So it's a combination of both, but looking at all the traditional things, defense in depth, and really layering on for that type of thing, all of the protections, not skipping some because it's convenient.
No, I think that makes sense. We actually spoke to one customer a couple of months ago, Desmond, who's one of my team members, and I were out, and we were surprised to hear one customer tell us that they actually keep a full, their primary cloud environment's Azure. They keep a full copy of everything in a competitive cloud, and that they believe that they need that kind of redundancy because of the business they are in. It was, you know, it's obviously a very expensive scenario, but the one thing that I took from that is, even if you just do cloud backup, maybe all your systems are on premise, even if you're just backing up in somebody's cloud, that is actually a pretty proactive control you can take to be resilient, because then you can restore from there, right? So Chad, you've had the opportunity at FireEye and at, you were at a consulting firm now at Optiv to meet with a lot of CISOs around the globe, I know, and you've had a lot of frame of reference in different industries. So in your conversations with customers, similar to what I talked about, you know, what I'm hearing from customers, talk a little bit about the common problems you're hearing, but more importantly for this audience, what you're hearing are people are putting in place as solutions, the type of things they're thinking about as controls and solutions for some of that common set of problems that lead to not being as cyber resilient or not being as operational resilient as they'd like to be.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ann. Kind of real quick before we kind of jump into the question, in the room, everybody's in cyber, from a cyber perspective in cyber organizations. How many people in this room are going through a transformation, digital transformation, their organization is transforming? Any hands here? Everybody? Yeah, so that's kind of given. So I would say some of the things we've seen, you know, over the over 20 plus years, our cyber ecosystem changed a lot, right? And for me, it's gone from very heavy on the compliance and attack and pin and really exploiting vulnerabilities, which has been very important. I say we still have that challenge, especially when I was at FireEye, responding to a lot of breaches every day, and then, you know, now working at a global cybersecurity consulting firm. We still see it over and over, but now I would say that it's changed a lot, right? So normally the conversations we have is around how to be agile enough to be able to be more focused on business. And what does that mean to the business ecosystem? I mean, before is, hey, how do I stand up the walls? How to make these rule changes? How to put the compliance and controls in place? But now it's like, how do I become more embedded into the business lifecycle? And I can tell you for myself, that was probably the hardest challenge when I was going through my career, is how to making that turn from a technical individual and really understanding the business constructs of the organization. And I would say typically, even with all the systems I work with now, I would say it's probably still about a 70-30 mix. Most of them are very technical in nature, varies on the organizational construct and the maturity of the organization, but they still have a challenge kind of overcoming that business issue. So one of the major areas we always talk to them about is being on the earlier stages of security in that organization from a business perspective, and not on the back end where they're trying to pick technologies to fix some kind of technical component of that overall security program. So that's one area we always talk about, is how to get earlier in that stage, because it has a huge impact on really the success of that program long term. I would say the second area is really around how you manage your attack management or attack life cycle. So our organizations, the ones I work with, the organizations in this room, based off the conversations just today, between cloud and robotics and automation and RPA, and you can go on forever and a day, DevSec and everything else, our attack surface management is uncontrollable at this point, right? Everything's in the cloud or on premise or on a different location with acquisitions. So the unknown is even more challenging for organizations, how to manage that unknown. We used to, back in the day, always debate, especially when I was at a product company, is whose product was better. It's become false positive, false negatives conversation. But right now, it's really a false negative or unknown issue that we're dealing with. So how do you manage that through asset management, understanding your environment more proactively, being able, because you can't secure what you don't know. And I think it goes to the original point, is how do you get involved in the business life cycle. The last one I would say is very interesting too, because I think it's transformational of our industry and most of the conversations we have. Our industry has been very focused on how to protect, providing protection technologies or protections in your environment to isolate, and control the security. Then we went to detection, how to provide the clarity and detection to be able to respond to the attacks. And then we got really heavy on response, how to respond, how do you get breached, how do you respond, working with communication, working with legal, how do you respond. But today, really it's past that. Right now it's how do you recover. And I think that's really the important piece, that a lot of people haven't made that continuation of that, how to secure their environment. You still got to play the protection game, you still got to play the detection game, but you also have to play the response game. But you also now have to think about how you recover and how to lay in automation controls in place to not just know your environment and know the unknown, but how do you stand up environments when they are burned down, like Ann's example with Merck earlier, right? How do you recover from a massive ransom breach? How do you recover from environmental issues that were not there enforcing to be able to do planning and business continuity planning around and doing tabletop exercises? So the recovery exercise is a big topic that we talk about a lot, is how to build in, because recovery is a lot different than talking about protection and detection. Recovery is really critical to our overall success. So,
Thank you. Conan, I want to come back to you because you talked about culture. Can you talk a little bit about how important the employee role is to developing the culture, and what types of things that you've done organizationally to evolve the culture and to become more of a security-aware culture?
Absolutely. So it's going to start from the top down. If our leaders are empowering a certain type of culture for operational resiliency, it's going to trickle down. Kind of to Chad's point, crisis happens and we need to get to that recovery phase, and it needs to be quick. If automated would be best case scenario, but empowering that from like a leadership standpoint, it will trickle down, because the person that could be responsible might be responsible for a lot of other systems, a lot of other pieces of equipment. So if one little crisis happens and they shut down, that could kill business in a lot of different ways. So empowering that culture from the top down, and I would say even doing like checkups on it, just to make sure you keep a pulse on your whole team, and you have to keep a pulse on any direct reports you have, any direct reports they have. Really just making sure you have a clear pulse on the operational resiliency going on. And the culture aspect, I just think, is really important, because at the end of the day, you could take the resources out, you could take the processes out, and the people have to be able to respond regardless. Tools change, technology changes, processes are going to change because the technologies are changes, but the people stay the same. So your people have to be able to adapt to that change. So that's why I really think what sets us apart from a lot of other competitors is just the culture, to be able to bounce back or stay agile for the most part.
You're probably going to see me tweet that people have to respond regardless. That is a brilliant statement. You know, everything could burn down around them, and they still have to get the business back online. I love that.
And can I add something?
Yes,
to
I was actually going to ask you to.
Thank
So
you.
perfect.
I could read your thought bubble. In addition to what you said, I like the top down. I think that's so critical. But you know what we often see, and I think you've spoken about this a few minutes ago, is we're as secure as our weakest link. And we often see that a first point of entry is the employee, you know, or even a customer. You know, it's that one link that they didn't catch, you know, or didn't realize is a phishing attack. And going back to that awareness, creating that awareness that how important their role is, whether, you know, all of us are employees, but all of us are consumers, right? All of us are customers. So how do we create that awareness that's not within just the organization and within the perimeters of where they work, but they bring that with them wherever they go. You know, as I walk into this event, you know, do I want to hop onto the Wi-Fi? You know, what are those thoughts that I want to be having, you know, as I'm walking around, you know, at an airport or at a Starbucks, or what am I doing? You know, I might be carrying a company phone, I might be carrying a company asset. What are those things that I'm doing in my day-to-day life that could, you know, end up in exposure, and changing that, you know, as part of the culture and the awareness is critical.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I'm going to put Tony on the spot and ask him a hard question, and then we'll open up for the audience questions. So I'm going to ask you what worries you most over the next 3 to 5 years?
So it's a confluence of things, actually, is that if you're sitting in a 100-plus-year-old company that's in a 100-plus-year-old industry that typically has prided on itself on, you know, air gapping the operational systems that run the power grid when in many cases they're not air gapped, at the same time that there's a tremendous thirst for digital transformation and starting to bring those systems together so we can get operational efficiency from renewables, from all the different things we would tie in, from our turbine plants, from all those different things. Trying to bring that together at the same time that it's a bit of an inflection point in technology. I did this work, similar work 5 years ago for another very large utility in the U.S. The price of equipment at that point was about $150,000 just to do the first part of a facility. Now that's down to about $3,000. The capability is about, back 5 years ago, was only about 10% of what we have now. So I don't have, you know, it'd be great to have a crystal ball and be able to say, you know, 3 to 5 years from now, this is what the technology landscape is going to look like, and this is what the business landscape is going to look like as far as business transformation within the utility sector, and try to bring all that together along with people and culture and get it into one very highly efficient package that comes together perfectly without, you know, wasting any resources. At the same time that the threats get more sophisticated, you know, things like AI and machine learning come into it to a degree on, you know, on people that want to attack the power grid and our other systems, trying to get all those pieces together the way that they're coming together and figure that out ahead of time is next to impossible. So we do the best that we can, and we start with really just kind of basic cyber hygiene and going back to the basics and looking at the grid, looking at our back office systems and seeing where there are weaknesses there, what we can do with what we have now, and, you know, take the best educated guess that we can on what that's going to look like in a few years.
Thank you. So I'm going to open up for questions. One thing I would say is as you come to the mic, and there are mics, there's 3. Just if you want to ask a specific panelist a question, just ask them directly, just so we know. And otherwise, we're you can ask us any question. I'll say it like that. Come on. Someone needs to be brave enough to ask the question. It's the value you get is actually not listening to me, but listening to these folks who actually do this every day. There we go. The first brave person to ask a question.
I'm not sure about that. You made the comment that about 20% is using multi-factor these days. Are all of you guys using it? And I know it puts you on the spot a little bit, but for me, I'm in education, and that really surprises me because we've been using it for a while now, mainly because we did get burned probably a couple of years ago. And I was just curious as to what y'all's thoughts were and what were your holdbacks for using multi-factor. We use Duo pretty much across the board with all of our apps and email these days. And it was initially difficult to get people to get on board with that. But the security implications seem to be a huge moving factor for us.
You want to start at the end?
Yeah, I can start. So I would say yes. A caveat, your organization may use multi-factor authentication, but bumps you run into is like, how many vendors do you deal with? How many different clients do you use like one particle of their product baseline that they have? They might not be having that authentication, so somebody could definitely pivot from an outside vendor, some sort of third party that you consult with in some part of the business. So I would say your company may use, or your organization may use multi-factor, but make sure you just segment it off and have different measures in place for any third-party service that you use, because just because you're doing it doesn't mean they are. So I would just make the assumption that anybody you work with probably isn't using it, just as like an overall security posture standpoint.
Donnie, you want to? And by the way, the panelists, you don't have to answer the question if you're not comfortable talking about your security posture. That's fine.
We use it, given the nature of the business, and for anybody that's familiar with power grid, you know how old some of that equipment is out there. It's not compatible with everything. So that's where, to Ann's point earlier, the segmentation comes in place, so that to get to those parts of the network that are more legacy, or not up to the standard that we'd like to have at this point, we make sure that we at least have MFA to be able to get to that part of the network. And then the things that are more updated and everything, that's the standard.
I would generally say that I haven't seen it as much as I would have liked to see it, but there's no quantifiable way for me to answer the question. So have you, Chad, in your experience, have you seen that?
Yeah, so from a multi-factor, I mean, of course, our workforce, like yours, is very distributed. So a distributed workforce becomes challenging, so you have to have multi-factor authentication across apps, cloud-based apps, and then also getting inside your organization. So even if it's based off authentication and zoning and zero trust and some other motions that go into that. But I would say the more complex organization, more multinational it is, the more challenging it becomes. But definitely for us, we're very much do everything with multi-factor. So.
And I will say, we obviously do at Microsoft, but I will say that it wasn't easy. There were parts of the research org and then parts of the engineering org that didn't want to use MFA because they need to be on different systems at different multiple times. And you talk about that top-down culture, Satya mandated it. We don't mandate a lot at Microsoft. We try to be a little more, but he just said, look, we have to use MFA. So it took a culture change in the organization even to roll out MFA throughout the organization.
Hi. That's actually a nice segue for what I was going to ask. I work at a comprehensive cancer center where we have a large balance between research as well as clinical. And I come from an information security background, but I recently switched to IT operations. And one of the most challenging pieces that we have is a lack of cohesion between the checks and balances provided by information security and the demands on us from an IT operational perspective. And I was wondering if you had any advice for both people such as myself and the IT operations side who feel like we're being, information security requests are being lobbed over the fence. We've got to deal with the load, as well as for those of us still fully on the information security side with how to partner and open up the minds of our operational peers so they don't feel like we're at opposite ends of everything, but rather we're tackling the challenge together. And I'll sit down and listen.
Cody, and you want to start with that just because it's, in healthcare, at least tangential?
Sure. Definitely. So, I mean, we run into that all the time. Parts of the business care about stuff like browsing speed, while security standpoint, we have a lot of important data that a lot of cyber bad guys looking to sell on the internet. So we kind of have to partner with the business in a sense of looking at it as more of like risk management, because at the end of the day, we're not going to get all the security in place that we want. So it's more so about handling that risk and mitigating that risk when possible. But I would say partnering with the business side the best you can is going to be the best approach, just because they have certain requirements they have to meet operationally wise. But then obviously security operationally, they're looking at it as if something bad happens, business stops. So you got to kind of meet in the middle, but also just figure out what their requirements are and just try to accommodate the best you can.
Chad, do you want to add on to that? You're
Yeah,
talking about
no.
being early.
Yeah, no, I would say where I've seen success is most organizations now are trying to work towards the same outcome and say business transformation. Transformation's hard on everybody, especially security, because they're trying to move fast. IT operations, same way. So we're seeing a lot of organizations kind of build these fusion centers, really a joint collection of most IT and security and forensics and physical into one ecosystem that we're working together to kind of solve the bigger problem. I think that going back to Conan's kind of the culture development component of it, driving that culture and that unity in those fusion centers, typically we have a better outcome instead of the old school of, hey, I've identified a vulnerability, IT ops go fix it, right? IT goes, well, it's a critical system, I'm not bringing it down, so you're going to have to figure out mitigating controls associated with it. And so this back and forth cat and mouse kind of game. I would say we've kind of started going past that. I would say a little bit what I've seen in the industry is the combining emergence of IT and security more broadly. If you look at Microsoft, just them as a whole, they're very heavily invested in security now. And 10 years ago, that really wasn't the case, right? So I was just blown away just walking on the floor how much security tech they have now. So that IT and security coming together is going to be critical to have that conversation. Now we have seen security organizations leave the IT organization and start working with legal and risk and others. And I think that kind of drives a little bit of division. But if they still live in the home of IT, it's really kind of building that culture around fusion.
And I made a really controversial statement to the Irish Times, I think it was the Irish Times, not that long ago, where I said, we'll know that the security industry is fully matured when there is no massive IT security department, because security is everybody's job. You're still going to have a SOC, you still have some functions, but security becomes part of IT operations and everything else.
I agree. That's the kind of the approach we're trying to take and work towards from the days of dev and then ops being separate now to really get into that DevSecOps, where it really is baked in at every step of the way.
Correct.
And bring all the stakeholders in from the beginning. From the healthcare perspective, did your organization use a DevSecOps type model to kind of have everybody own their piece of information security along the way? Or at least when applications are developed, IT infrastructure, IT security operations are all involved?
So I would say that was kind of like legacy. Definitely there's been a shift since obviously cybersecurity is evolving each year. From what it was like 3 years ago to now is completely night and day different. So what it was to what it is now is completely different in just the sense that I would say it's embodied as a culture throughout the whole enterprise just because of more so learning and information sharing across different organizations, picking up lessons learned from miscellaneous organizations that have some sort of security issues that happen, and realizing that it's to Ann's point, that it's everybody's job for security, and just embodying that as a culture has really helped kind of bridge that gap, I would say.
And we have that culture, by the way. It is the responsibility. We have a question over here.
Hi. What is your experience dealing with difficult boards? And by difficult, I mean they are aware of cyber as a topic, and they're becoming a little bit arrogant in it because they would represent that, oh, I read about ransomware all the time at newspapers. I know about this stuff. What is...
Did you say boards?
Board.
Yeah.
As in board of directors, okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to start this by saying that I've spoken to 2 boards in the past 2 weeks. It's become a thing now that I'm getting invited much more frequently. At least I used to speak to like 1 board a year. Now customers are saying, can you please come speak to my board? And I will tell you that the 2 that I spoke to, which may not be the best representation, were aware, but they were curious. They wanted to learn. They said, we need to know more about this topic so we can both guide our business, but also manage the risk, right? And so my advice to in just those conversations, I have another one coming up in a week, believe me, it's shocking that I'm like, why am I suddenly speaking to all these boards, is that it's a risk conversation. Cybersecurity at the end of the day is a risk conversation, by the way. Every organization has a different appetite for risk. And so if you approach the conversation from a risk conversation and put it in the vernacular that they already understand, you're still not going to stop that, and we get it ourselves. Think about Microsoft. We have John Thompson on our board. We have Bill Gates on our board. We have Reid Hoffman on our board. We get those inbounds. Hey, I saw this in the news. It's like fantastic. You're still not going to stop those, but I think the more that you educate them and the more you frame it and the more the frame of reference is around risk, which is something that all boards understand, you can actually have more constructive conversations. That's what I found.
Yeah, just to add, and kind of going back to your topic as well, understanding the why, right? Going back to what you said, why are we trying to do this, and aligning on that purpose is. It sounds so high level when I say that, but it's really important even for cybersecurity, right? What is our purpose? Why are we trying to, enforce that they do this or you must do this? And then going back to your board question, what I find is bringing it closer to home. When they read it in the newspapers, it's always it happened to somebody, right? Versus, someone, I live in Chicago and, there's violence like on the south side, but it doesn't matter unless it's happening on the north side where we live. And when you bring it closer to home and you articulate it and measure it in terms of what is the risk, what is the cost, and what is the value, the return on that investment, I think that's when the boards are gonna start, really embracing cybersecurity a little bit more.
Yeah, one thing I would add to that, to your point, is some of the boards are becoming a little bit more aware. So the board members feel like they know security, even though they don't really know security. So you'll see, I get invited to a lot of board conversations also, and typically it's because they don't have the trust of the internal CISO that well, because he didn't make that technical turn to business and understand the business well enough. So they bring in an outside consultant to be able to have translation conversations, I would say, with them as it relates to their business. I would say look for a partner with your consultants to make sure you can seed the right individuals on your board to have the individual understanding of what it really means to run security operations for the organization, IT operations, where you can influence the board in a way that's more meaningful to the overall organization. Because I do see a huge trend now where they're just bringing on consultants on the board as kind of the trusted advisor to kind of help with the translation.
Yeah, I think the lexicon of security is been vexing to people because it tends to be a little sensational, a little militaristic, and it tends to be fairly technical. I wrote a blog on this not long ago. One of the things we need to do to increase understanding and then improve security, because it becomes everyone's problem, is we actually need to normalize our language a little bit so that it's much more inviting to people and they actually want to learn about it, they're not intimidated about it, and that's part of having that board conversation. We have about 8 minutes in order to stay on time. So one, I want to remind you the t-shirts are in the back if you want one. I also want to remind you to fill out the survey for the session, just like every other session, because that's how we improve. And then I want to take 1 to 2 more questions. There we go. I have a hard time seeing over there. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, on the topic of risk, I have a challenge in our company. Of course, we know we got to do risk assessments kind of before developing, implementing solutions. I have a hard time supporting the business, number of projects, the understanding of how to work with this topic. It's kind of hard for them, right? But I can't scale my department to support them. How have you done that? Or how are you approaching this topic?
So I can hand out my business card. I have a team of people.
Consultants this hour.
Dinner DNA. Any, Tony?
Yeah, on the operations side.
Yeah, Tony, maybe?
Yeah, that's an interesting challenge. Right now, we're going through a 3-year program. We started at the beginning of the year. It's a little over $150 million. It's publicly available information to overhaul cyber on the grid side of the house. And one of the mottos of that program that this is something that we're there to do with the business, not to the business, because traditionally that's what cyber has done. Inside the utilities, it goes down, doesn't really explain the requirements, dishes them out, maybe installs some equipment. And remember that going back to the board conversation, this is something that had to be approved by the board. They're all excited to do this and everything. But when that gets down to the president of the business unit that's responsible for transmission of electricity across multiple states, his responsibility is keeping that electricity flowing. So we look actually to that person often as a disruptive influence. So that's where culture comes into place, that you have to build, it's labor intensive, maybe one of the most labor intensive things we do, but build the partnerships because those people out in that side of the business, they know more about the business and the operational aspects, the day-to-day, what can take something down than we're ever going to know on our side. So we build out, working teams and multiple touch points with them so that we can essentially integrate into their daily operational maintenance, upgrades, upkeep of the grid. But that concept, I think, works, and that construct works across, many industries and very many functions. That it's a whole lot easier in partnership. It's a force multiplier that you get. You get people that are accustomed to working in that operational area to help you out and actually spend cycles on it. And that's the way we've approached this so far. It's working for us about a year into the program.
We have time for one more question. We'll take it over here.
All right, so I'm a manager in software development, and in the last two organizations, it seems like our security analysts are very focused on their tools, spitting out a report, giving us tickets to fix them, but they don't really understand the technologies that we use, like IIS, Windows services, those type of things. So one, is that a fairly common thing in technology? And two, how do I bridge the gap with them and help them create some more accountability for making sure, one, they're giving us stuff that's actually a higher risk, and being more proactive in how we patch that stuff and harden those technologies?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I'll jump in here. Work with a lot of companies, they buy a lot of technology gear. We've seen a huge shift recently around trying to solve security with technology to now trying to solve it with some kind of outcome-based process, which I think is driving that more integrated approach to what we were talking about before, is really kind of that security inside DevOps model of how to bring it in earlier through that life cycle. It's all about maturity and where the organization's kind of gone through that life cycle of where they are and what kind of security analysts they're bringing in. Our industry is very saturated, so we don't have a lot of people just sitting around for security. So we got like 4 million jobs open that we can't fill from a cybersecurity industry perspective. So now we're kind of reaching to bring in people, and typically the educational systems are very focused on tools. So typically you'll get people that are very tool centric. So it's really their maturity and their life cycle they have to go over. That's why typically organizations bring in consultants to kind of bridge that gap, because they've been there a while. And if they operationalize it, they can just throw the consultants out and it doesn't really cost them that too much. So I would say bridging that model is really important. But we do have a systemic issue in our industry of trying to get people up to a level. And analyst is always the first job people go into in the security industry. So they're going to typically be, I would say, junior, and then they're working up to be more advanced and more threat hunting. So they're always chasing the vulnerabilities. So not surprising, we see that a lot with organizations trying to figure out how to bridge that. Typically, it's an alignment thing with the executives and a culture thing. I know we've been saying that a lot, but it's also a maturity thing. And building that security earlier in that life cycle, so being inviting and making sure they understand what you're trying to do with, so the why, I think will definitely help bridge that. But it's a curve. I mean, and you got to kind of work through that curve.
Yeah, and seek opportunities to educate, offer yourself to the extent that you can. So I want to thank the panelists. I do want to close the panel on our original time. I want to thank all of you for making the time. I want to thank all of you who, especially if you walked over from the conference center, and you probably have to walk back to the conference center. Appreciate your commitment. And fill out your survey, grab a t-shirt. I'm easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn. If you do LinkedIn to me, tell me you attended the session. I don't accept every LinkedIn invite I get. You can find me on Twitter. It's @JohnZoCyber. And you can find me, obviously, at Microsoft. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day.